Okay, be brutally honest about this. If you knew from the beginning that sex was not going to happen anytime soon, would you do any of these things? If so, why? Would you cook for or with her even though you barely cooked for yourself? Would you insist on facing your fear of something with her? Would you try new things, such as food or activities? Would you introduce friends and family to each other? Would you see each other at least 3 times a week, if not more, including sleeping in the same bed? Would you deal with conflict resolution when she is upset over what seems like a small mistake? Story 1. None of this really has anything to do with sex, so I am just curious about the situation with sex now. If she is someone who takes time to open up and be intimate, I can be patient. If it is a no sex until marriage situation, or they are asexual or just do not enjoy intimacy the way I do, then I would not continue. That is because I enjoy intimacy and connecting physically. It does not relate to the rest of those issues for me. I would do all of the following for someone I am dating or in a relationship with. Facing fears. This is a normal part of being human. If I am partners with someone or want to be, this will happen naturally, so there is no reason to avoid it. Trying new things. I do this with everyone in my life, whether platonic or romantic. Meeting friends and family. It is important to see how we behave and respond with new people, especially those we both care about. Dealing with conflict resolution. Do you want to be with someone you cannot handle conflict resolution with? Also, if it seems small to you, that may just be a matter of perspective. Also, if you cannot or do not cook for yourself, that is your personal responsibility. Story 2. What type of question is this? That is all basic committed relationship stuff. If I decided to be in a committed relationship despite sex not being on the table at the start, then I would do those things. That said, I probably would not be in a long-term committed relationship if sex was off the table for more than, say, a month or maybe 2 at max. Story 3. I would definitely not invest much, if any, time or emotion into someone I was not sure about sexual compatibility with. Story 4. If you knew from the beginning that sexual intimacy is not going to happen anytime soon, I do not need to read anymore. I spent a few years in a dead bedroom, and I am never going back to another. Sorry, I am out at this point. Life is too short. Story 5. You have listed all the upfront costs, but what exactly does this person get for doing this? What are you offering? Story 6. Insist on facing your fear of something with her. Facing a fear is not really something to do with someone, unless that fear is somehow related to that person. What are you getting at here? Try new things such as food and activities. Of course. Introduce friends and family to each other. See each other at least 3 times a week, if not more, including sleeping in the same bed. Of course. Deal with conflict resolution when she is upset about what seems like a small mistake. I have never had a problem de-escalating a situation when someone is upset. As for sex is not going to happen anytime soon, that has never been a concern of mine. I mean, if I were single, I was not getting laid already, so I do not really have any leverage here. Story 7. I'm fine waiting a while for physical intimacy, but I am going to match someone's energy. I require them to put effort into things I care about if they expect the same. Whether people like it or not, physical intimacy is a core pillar of practically every romantic relationship, and people need to be compatible. If that does not look like it is moving towards that, then I will assume we are only friends and I will date other people. I will wait a while for the right person, but I will not consider it a serious relationship without physical intimacy. Story 8. Would you cook for or with her even though you barely cooked for yourself? I am a good cook and have cooked for myself for many years, so I would not mind sharing homemade meals. Insist on facing your fear of something with her. I mean, I guess. I cannot think of anything that would fit this example, but it is always easier to face a fear with support. Try new things like food or activities. I do this anyway, even alone, so sure. Introduce friends and family to each other. Now, if we are in a new relationship, I would wait for it to get serious. See each other at least 3 times a week or more, including sleeping in the same bed. See each other often? Sure. Sleeping in the same bed? It depends on the degree of intimacy. If we are waiting to introduce penile-vaginal intercourse but are still being sexual, then sure. But if we are still at a no nudity and no physical intimacy stage, then I would not share the bed, as that would be a level of intimacy at odds with the rules we set. Deal with conflict resolution when she is upset over what seems like a small mistake. That makes it sound like she is extremely controlling and emotionally demanding. I am all for working through issues, but if she is blowing up over small things to the point of needing conflict resolution at the beginning stages of a relationship, then I would think she is going to be difficult to deal with. A lack of emotional regulation. I would probably leave. Story 9. This is a really tangled situation. The premise is that sex is not going to happen even though you want it to, and thus you are not sure if you should go out of your way to be someone different than yourself if you are not getting what you want. Right? Let's start over. A relationship is about showing the other person who you are, learning who they are, seeing if you are compatible, and then committing further. With your cooking example, if you do not cook for yourself or have any real interest in cooking, then you should not pretend to be a cook for her. Are you interested in learning and want to do it with someone? Great. But that is not the premise here. The premise here is that you do not want to cook but are doing it for her. Also, if you do not want to see her more than, say, 2 times a week, then you should not be forcing yourself to see her 3 times a week just to appease her. You should assess if you want to change yourself to like seeing her more, if she would be okay with doing it your way, or if you both would be comfortable meeting in the middle somehow. Not pretending to be okay with 3 times because it will appease her and maybe get you sex. Sexual compatibility is a complete deal breaker in a relationship. If you want sex and she does not, this is never going to work. If you are 16 and still learning, I get it, but I do not get that vibe here. You are approaching relationships completely wrong. You should focus on being yourself with a person to see if you click that way. It sounds like she does not want what you want, and you feel compelled to pretend to be someone you are not to keep her. This is a mess. Story 10. In a romantic relationship, absolutely not. If we were just friends and I enjoyed being friends, then sure, I could see myself doing some or all of these things. However, sex would not be relevant anymore. Story 11. I respect wanting to wait and have requested it myself. There is no need to increase the number of past partners. It also gives a good sense of what a relationship would look like if intercourse is not an option at the moment. Many relationships focus more on sex in the beginning than on the relationship itself. Regarding the points, I don't mind cooking. I enjoy it for others. I meal prep for myself because of bodybuilding and diet, so she would need to be okay with eating different food than me. I like a partner who challenges me to try new things and gets me out of my comfort zone. In exchange, I don't mind being the anchor. If I am serious about someone, I will introduce them to my family and would expect the same from her. I love spending time with my partner. Not sleeping alone is truly a bonus. Lastly, it highly depends on her. If she starts throwing knives because I didn't dry off the can opener properly, that would be an issue. Story 12. Introduce friends and family to each other. See each other at least 3 times a week, if not more, including sleeping in the same bed. Adding this to no sex makes me curious about the intended age range. Is it for teenagers, college students, or established adults? Many of these suggestions seem overly forward for people early in a relationship when sex is not yet considered. Try new things such as different foods and activities. This last point is somewhat concerning that it is included. Story 13. If there is not a mutual desire, do not tolerate anything for anyone. Do you want sex? Find someone who wants you. That pretty much sums it up. Story 14. Yes, sex is not the main thing in a relationship. I dated a boy for 5 months before we started having sex. Everyone is different, including me. Story 15. Is this a general question, or are you asking it for yourself? If it is for yourself, what is this woman to you that made you ask this question? A friend with benefits, girlfriend, or fiancé? Story 16. The devil is in the details. Is she a virgin? Has she only had 1 or 2 partners with whom she waited an equal amount of time? Or has she had multiple casual encounters? Are other sexual activities acceptable? Or is this a no to any sexual contact for 3 months? If I met a woman who could honestly say, I have always waited 3 months into a relationship to sleep with someone, I've never had casual encounters, and never slept with someone who wasn't my boyfriend, I would have no issue with it. As for the rest, I don't have any irrational or overwhelming fears, so it's a moot point. I eat a relatively strict diet for health reasons and because I have a sensitive gut, so new foods are probably out. I love trying new activities, though. I couldn't see myself being completely serious about a relationship until sex happens and we see if we are compatible. I won't introduce my family to someone until it's a serious relationship. I would hope we see each other more than 3 times a week, but sleepovers are probably a no-go until we sleep together. I sleep naked, so there are obvious barriers to a sleepover if we aren't at the point of having seen each other naked. Regarding conflict resolution, it depends on how reasonable the other person is. Some people latch onto minor transgressions and hold them against you forever. I prefer to problem solve, but if there's a problem, it needs to be resolved and then forgotten, not dissected endlessly based on feelings about the problem. Story 17. I don't think I could date someone who requires conflict resolution over small mistakes. Do we have to go to couples counseling every time I leave a sock on the floor? Story 18. If someone is not willing to be intimate with you, you should probably save the new experiences for someone who is. Story 19. You already answered your question with the first line. If sex is not on the table, why are you going to waste your time doing all of that nonsense? You do that for the woman you are going to commit to, not someone who is taking you for a ride. Story 20. I have posted something longer already, but to add to the sex point, I dated someone in the recent past for about 4 months who upfront said she did not sleep around and wanted us to not have sex until we were in a relationship. I did not rush into a relationship just for sex, but we ended up getting into one about 3 weeks later, had sex a few times, and then she suddenly wanted intimacy to take a back seat, so the relationship was built on solid principles. Similar to her initial point, this sounded good enough, so I went with it. However, anytime I questioned how long this could last, she got defensive as if I had no say in the matter and could not even question it. It was only when she started showing a number of other red flags later on, and I think she started thinking I was not going to stick around, that she suddenly wanted to have sex again. I actually turned her down, saying that she did not get to just turn on or off whether we had sex for any reason that suited her. We did not last much longer, but my point is to be careful that you are not in a situation where sex is used as a manipulative tool by a woman to control you. Story 21. Not happening anytime soon because you both want to wait for marriage? Or are you hoping she comes around? If it is the first one, I would do those things. If it is the second one, I would end the relationship for both of your sakes. Story 22. Yes, those challenges come pretty standard with relationships. Every relationship is different, and this sounds like the couple would be supporting each other and being with one another. Conflict resolution is helpful whether you are in a relationship or not. Story 23. Every person should know how to cook. You do not need to be a master chef, but you need to be able to feed yourself. Insist on facing your fear of something with her. I have no idea what this entails, so no thank you. Trying new things and getting out of your comfort zone is good for you. I hope my partner would be willing to meet my friends and family as I am willing to meet theirs. If I do not want to introduce someone to my family, that means I am embarrassed to be with them. And you are sleeping in the same bed but not sexually active yet? Okay. Explain the nature and frequency of these conflicts to me. Are said conflicts always one-sided? If it is always her being upset with something you did, then do not bother because it is not going to work out. Relationships are two-way streets. If she wants something and you want the opposite, then neither of you are wrong per se, but you are also not a good fit for one another. You are both better off finding people who share your views. This applies to matters of intimacy and basically everything else. Long story short, in the above circumstances you described, I would not continue to date this hypothetical partner. Story 24. Personally, physical compatibility is very important to me, so it would be unwise to do all of the above without knowing bedroom compatibility, in my opinion. Story 25. My standards realistically come from my religious beliefs. I do not want sex until marriage. I find that sex almost always brings drama into the relationship because we invest emotionally, physically, and spiritually in the other person without making a full, proper commitment. Story 26. What would make you do or tolerate any of this in a relationship? A gun to my head, maybe. You would get better results if you could rewind my mind 20 years back to naivete. Okay, so be brutally honest about this. You asked for it. If you knew from the beginning that sex was not going to happen anytime soon, would you do any of these things? So why? No, because sex being off the table means a romantic or intimate relationship is off the table. Either accept all of me or I give nothing. I have been around the block too much to believe any other arrangement is worth the effort. Would you cook for or with her even though you barely cooked for yourself? No, but I do and would cook for myself. Would you insist on facing your fear of something with her? No. Why would I trust her to do that with me if she will not trust me to have sex? Would you try new things, such as food or activities? Unless you mean new relationships with new and different women without her. Then no. Would you introduce friends and family to each other? Sure, whatever. This is fair platonic territory. Would you see each other at least 3 times a week, if not more, including sleeping in the same bed? Absolutely not. Would you deal with conflict resolution when she is upset about what seems like a small mistake? I will deal with it by leaving and doing my own thing. There is no point in mutually resolving conflict with a person who has baked conflict into the structure of our bond. I will resolve conflict unilaterally. Story 27. I would not last long dating someone who is not enthusiastic about being intimate with me. Life is too short for those games. Story 28. If you knew from the beginning that sexual activity was not going to happen anytime soon. I am old enough to not have any hang-ups about sexual activity, and young enough to still be interested in it. At this point in my life, that alone would be a deal breaker. Story 29. I don't date people for the sex, so I don't think I would care that much. It depends on the time frame. Is this slowly over a year or next week? That is a lot, but gradually over time, sure. Grow and connect together. What is the issue? Story 30. My concern about sex is that it can be used as a manipulative tool. You get your treat if you do what she wants. Your last point is something many men deal with and get upset about. I find it interesting that she uses the term conflict resolution when it seems she lacks internal conflict resolution skills, considering every little issue needs to be discussed. I tried explaining this to my ex-fiancée a few times. I tried helping her understand that men tune out their significant others because of constant small complaints. I also told her to consider whether something is truly worth bringing up and whether she can resolve it internally before discussing it. The flip side is that men often feel they have no right to bring up mistakes made by the woman. My ex-fiancée ended our relationship partly because I pointed out she lacked time management and organization skills. Watching her try to get her children ready was frustrating. She also criticized me on many things. I don't know how long you've been with this person, but this does not sound like a healthy relationship, and you may want to consider leaving. Story 31. If issues are this complicated, especially having to go to great lengths to resolve minor problems, this is not a relationship I would pursue at all. There is no reward in it, and I would leave as soon as possible. Story 32. That's how the beginning of every relationship is for me. I want to make sure there is something there beyond just sex. I know the sex will be good, so I want to ensure we are compatible in other areas of our lives. Story 33. In general, I would be fine with it, but it depends on the reason. If it is because I do not want sex until marriage and she is a virgin, then I would probably be fine with it. However, if it is some sort of punishment for me because something else happened in your life and now you do not feel comfortable, I would say fix your issues before dating. You cannot saddle a new person with the trauma another person inflicted. Anything in between these extremes would be situational, so I would not be able to say what would or would not make me tolerate it. Story 34. When I realize sex is not happening, I leave. I have no incentive to waste my time paying for dates and food without getting anything in return. That is over. Story 35. If sex is not going to happen, I am done. People can be replaced quite easily. If it is not going to happen anytime soon, then I would manipulate her completely. Yes, I am a horrible person and I use girls. Story 36. Not a man, but I am guessing the attraction was stronger than just sex. He truly enjoyed her company, and also the thought of eventually having sex. Some people do wait to have sex until they are married. I do not know how, but they do. Again, I am a female putting myself in other shoes. I do not know if any males would agree with what I said, but it is my opinion. Story 37. The promise of sex is what makes me willing to put up with any nonsense on her behalf. If that is not on the table, then what are we even doing here? I cannot get serious with someone unless I know we are going to be compatible. One of the big things I need to know is sexual compatibility. We have to connect on multiple levels or it is not going to last 3 months. So I guess no, I would not be able to put up with the original posters list. Story 38. Absolutely not. Whenever a woman makes you wait for sex, you will find the sex was not worth waiting for. Imagine me doing conflict resolution with a woman I am not sleeping with. That situation is wild, brother, wild. If you want to sleep with her, you need to introduce competition. The reason she feels no sense of urgency to sleep with you is because you are safe and weak. Therefore, she sees you as someone she can tease because there is zero threat of you walking away. You are too nice, too accommodating, and you simply care way too much about her. In average society, we are taught that women like this. No, they actually despise it. Saying yes, dear, does not make her attracted. Nice guys are rarely respected, much less lusted after. If you want to sleep with her, start dating other women. Make sure you tell her first that you are going to start dating other women. Sex will happen quickly. Have the sex, then you should move on and find someone else who is not such a pain to deal with. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.